Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew here, as always, with Venushan, and today we are bringing you our final All-Star predictions. Next week, or no, this week. I think on Tuesday they actually get announced. The
It's
starters.
announced. Yep.
Yeah. So this is our last chance to do it, and so that should be a lot of fun. But before we get into that, as you know, it's our favorite time of the basketball season, trade season, and we were waiting, hoping for a big blockbuster trade to come along, and finally, I mean, Cam Reddish got traded, but compared to what we're going to talk about now, that's nothing. We finally got a blockbuster trade, and it was a 3-team trade. So let's go over that quickly.
Yes. So Denver, Boston, and San Antonio make the 3-team trade. Juancho Hernan-Gomez to the Spurs, Ryan Forbes to Denver, Bol and PJ Dozier to the Celtics. And then the only pick being moved is Denver is sending a 2028 second-round pick to San Antonio, kind of for Ryan Forbes.
Yeah. So I guess let's look at it from every team's perspective. Number one, the first thing that comes to mind is I guess Bol passed his physical this time.
No, he actually didn't pass his physical. He had the surgery on his leg, which is going to keep him out for 8 to 12 weeks. So basically, he's not going to play for the Celtics. Same with PJ Dozier. Mm-hmm. But on the Celtics, they get 2 injured players who are both free agents, who are both off the books next year, and they go under the luxury tax this year. A pure financial move, and they are able to do it without losing 0 assets and just trading away a guy who's not even in the rotation. So it's the W for the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, Juancho was averaging like 4.2 minutes a game for them or something. So this is literally nothing, and it's just giving them some more financial flexibility. On the side of the Nuggets, I like them bringing in Bryn Forbes. Just a good shooter, just another guy that Jokic can find, get open, and knock down some shots. That's pretty much it. And then Juancho, I mean, the Spurs were pretty guard heavy. So just bringing in a bigger body, I guess, is pretty much all that is.
And Denver moving away from PJ Dozier essentially means they're not super confident that they can re-sign him because he didn't show enough potential where they think some team's going to offer him, like close to that like mid-level exception, some like rebuilding team just to get him in. We all know they're not huge fans of Bol. And then the second round pick's just a second round pick, and they get someone who could come in, shoot a lot. And then, as you said, for the Spurs, they kind of have, Primo, Vassell, Lonnie Walker, and then both their starters, DeJounte Murray and Derek White. So they have a lot of depth, and a guy we're really high on who hopefully gets this backup point guard spot like solidified now, Trey Jones. We think he's really good, and we think he can have a really good jump shot and a long NBA career. So yes, they have a lot of guards. We just named 6. So they're good. They just get some size. Yeah, good. Yeah. I think every fan base understands why their organization did this. And I think every fan base is happy with the trade.
Yeah, I exactly. I don't. Yeah, seems like just a smart move for all sides. I mean, let's hope we get some at least more controversial trades so that it can take more than a minute on the podcast. But so that's literally all that happened news wise in the league this week. I mean, I guess the Mavericks went on a pretty big win streak since the last time we talked, really. But we'll I don't know. There's not really anything to say about that.
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Let's get into All-Stars. So has your All-Star starters changed since our quarter season All-Star predictions?
Well, I think both yours and mine did change because Demar Derozan, for some reason, is a guard. Even though he's played like 97% of his minutes as a forward, they listed him as a guard. So we had him as a forward. So both of our has changed because of this DeMar DeRozan change. So let's just jump straight into our East. Let's give our 3 forwards, and I think we're going to be pretty unanimous here. It's Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Last time I didn't have Embiid in, and because at the time he'd only played 12 games, but I don't know if he's missed a game since. And he is pretty firmly in the MVP conversation, if not the fringe conversation for MVP, because he is 28.4 points a game, 10.6 boards, 4.2 assists, career high, with 49.8 from the field, 39% from 3, and 81 from the line. He's kind of on the same, like, they have a $30 million player not playing. Up. They literally have a $30 million black hole in their lineup. He has them in the 6 seed. It's kind of like the Jokic argument. The numbers are insane. His help is not nearly where it could be, and he still has his team in a playoff spot.
Yeah, but I think sadly, just like last season, he's going to be number 2 to Jokic because yeah, he has one $30 million player.
Yeah.
Jokic has two
Yeah.
$30 million players sitting out. So it's just like
Yeah.
whatever Joel Embiid does, Jokic does one more. Joel Embiid drops 50 points. Jokic, I'm going to drop 49.
Yeah.
It's like they're just always intertwined. They're going to have a great legacy. It's just fun to see, man. They're both kind of like redoing that like Tim Duncan, Shaq thing back in the early 2000s. Now we got Jokic and Embiid. It's a rivalry that's gonna be legendary. It's gonna be talked about for days. It's just great to see the big men are back in the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Giannis, is there really anything to say? He's doing
the favorite.
He's the MVP favorite. He's doing Giannis things. No need to read off the stat line. Really, it's the same as always.
Yeah,
which is good enough to be MVP.
Yeah, literally his third MVP. He's the favorite right now, ahead of the guys we talked about, Jokic and Embiid, even Steph. All those guys. And with Kevin Durant, the guy that we have next, him going down with a 6 to 8 week injury. Some 4 to 6 this reported, but some are saying 6 to 8 now. So kind of puts KD out of it, and Giannis, he's kind of going closer and closer to that 1 seed as well. So Giannis, his third MVP, probably an all-star starter, but I don't know if he's gonna be a captain because Kevin Durant got fans like crazy. So we'll see.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. So both of us, we're kind of erring on the side of Kevin Durant not playing in the All-Star game, but we're just gonna leave him in our stars, and we're gonna name an injury replacement later on. That's the thing. If KD does win the captaincy and then doesn't play, would it just go to the guy with the next most votes, or would he still pick the teams, or what?
Last year, I think the same thing happened. KD was the captain. He picked the teams, and he couldn't play in the All-Star game, which is kind of annoying to see. Like your captain not even being able to play and stuff. So I hope this year they're just like, we'll just go to the second guy. I hope they change it up a little bit. But yeah, hopefully he's able to play, but like 99.999% he's not going to play.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so let's round out the starters with the guards. Mine are DeMar DeRozan, obviously, and then I have James Harden in at the second. Yeah,
I agree.
Right now the fans disagree with us. DeMar DeRozan is leading for guards, but Trae Young is in second behind him, and I believe Harden's third. I want to say. For me, the argument for Harden is just his teams in the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and that matters a lot when it comes to. Sorry, they're in the 1 seed. What am I saying? They're in the 1 seed, and that matters a lot when it comes to All-Star voting. His numbers, his efficiency is a little bit down, his scoring is a little bit down, but he's averaging 10 assists a game, and without Kyrie not playing the vast majority of the season so far, his team's in the 1 seed.
Yeah, he's gonna be the only Nets player that's playing this actual game.
Yeah,
there's gonna be 2 Nets All-Stars. He's the only one gonna be playing in this game, so he deserves to start. I think he will start. It's just fans like Trae Young more because he's just more of a personality than James Harden. He shimmies, he shushes the New York crowd. He just gets more crowd involvement than James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, Trae's numbers are insane, and we're going to get into that too. But before we do, let's talk about our guy, DeMar DeRozan, who has not gone down since we both had him in our All-Star starters. He's in fact gone up, and he's leading in votes for guards. He is in the fringe. If you're talking about the 7-8 guys who could win MVP, he's in that conversation. His Bulls are the 2 seed, and he's having. I don't know if this is his best season ever, because there were some pretty good years back when he played for our Toronto Raptors, but man, it's crazy to see him having such a good year at this late in his career.
Yeah, I think this is his best year in terms of in the Toronto years he had similar numbers, but it was just score. Yeah. This year he's able to score and play make and be able to hide on defense. Yeah, he's not the greatest defender, but he's doing enough where it's hidden. So yeah, it's very comparable to that 1 year where he scored 27 and it was all NBA third team for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
But I think this year, just with the more media attention, because it's on one of the bigger franchises, probably the 3rd biggest or 4th biggest franchise in the league in Chicago. Yeah, he's gonna get a little more attention, but it's definitely comparable to that Toronto year. I would have this year ahead of that year, but at the end of the day, DeMar DeRozan just making that Hall of Fame case better and better, and it's fun to see, especially as Raptors fans.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this on the pod before, but this Hall of Fame resume is starting to round out. If he is an All-Star starter this year, I think you can assume that
All NBA.
sometime in the next, All NBA this year, and then he's probably going to make an All-Star game at some point over the next 2-3 years after this. So especially if they win a chip this year, then that might be a lock. But just from an objective perspective, not from a Raptors fan perspective, it's actually looking back on those Raptors teams. We got like Lowry probably being a Hall of Famer. We got DeMar being Hall of Famer. Kawhi's a lock for Hall of Fame. It's just it's nice to see this DeMar DeRozan renaissance and everyone around the league actually appreciating him for who he is, because before it was kind of just a Raptors niche thing.
Yeah, Raptors and Spurs. We were just shouting how good he was, and the rest of the league wasn't listening. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the bench. I guess I'll go first. My two bench guards are the aforementioned Trae Young and Zach Levine.
Yeah, I have both those guys. Yeah. Zach Levine is targeting a return for next week, so hopefully he's able to play this game, and hopefully he just shows up, plays 2-3 minutes, and he probably rests their game, but hopefully he's able to come join because he's a young guy, and this is definitely gonna boost his confidence, and just boost his career. Having these All-Star games are a good thing to look back at the end of your career. Yeah. Hopefully he's able to play. And Zach Levine, crazy stats, and his team's in the second seed, so he's pretty much a lock as far as I would say. Trae Young, as you mentioned, he was second in fan voting, and he has the crazy stats. His team's not winning, but I think his stats are so crazy that he's still going to get that spot.
Yeah, agreed. The team is in the 12th seed right now, which is much lower than we expected, and I think everyone expected. But Trae Young, 28.4 points a game, 9.4 assists, 28 points, 4 boards, 9.4 assists, 45% from the field, 37 from 3, and 90 from the line. Can't argue with those stats at all. And Zach Levine is doing the same old Zach Levine things, 25, 5, and 5, pretty much over 40% from 3.
Second seed.
Teams in the 2 seed. So he's an absolute lock. So
I'm a little scared for Trae Young because we had him as a lock last year, and then he somehow didn't get in, putting in these crazy numbers as well. So I hope, man, if he misses 2 All-Stars while putting these crazy numbers up, this is just coach hate, and because it's the reserves, right? So it's all coaches, and he should have got him last year. He definitely deserves it this year. I think the coaches finally realized they made a mistake last year and won't get him in this year. But I would be a little wary.
Yeah, and I think you and I we value
high on him
as much as the next guy. We're not fans of guys who put up stats and don't win anything. But I think there's a line, right? Can you really blame the Hawks 12 seed on Trae Young? I don't think so. And when you really look at the alternatives, are you really going to pick someone like Darius Garland over Trae Young? I know Garland's team is 27-19 and they're in the 5 seed right now, but really, if I had a gun to your head, would you say Darius Garland deserves an All-Star nod over Trae Young this year? I don't think so.
Yeah, there's no chance. And it's just people want to be different. And it's just the coaches, man. The coaches just don't like Trae Young. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He's killing their teams too much. But yeah. He definitely deserves it this year. And I think they'll make the right choice this year.
Yeah. I hope so. Okay, so let's get on to the forwards. I had a little bit of a hard time with my forwards. Let's hear yours first, and then I'll give you mine.
Okay. So I think there's 2 that are kind of locks, and that's Jason Tatum. And my other lock is Jared Allen.
Yeah.
And then the one that I have kind of iffy that people are going to switch around with is Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll start with my iffy pick. The reason I have Jimmy Butler is because he's been playing amazing when he has been playing. But the reason why I could see people not having him is he hasn't played that much.
Yeah.
So that's a fair argument. But his team playing great. I know he hasn't played that much games, but when you compare him to the other forwards, I just can't make a case for someone else to be in a position over him. If someone was having a crazy good year and was consistent, like a Julius Randle from last year or something, then I'd put him there. But I think no forward has stepped up to take that Jimmy spot.
Yeah, I have the exact same 3 as you, and I have the same kind of mindset. Tatum, lock. Jared Allen surprisingly lock, especially maybe when you at first glance you're really Jared Allen's a lock, and then you look at the alternatives: Jimmy Butler, Pascal Siakam, Julius Randle, Chris Middleton. You're Jared Allen's probably a lock, especially with this team in the 5 seed. And Jimmy Butler, he's only played 28 games, but in those 28 games, 21 points a game, 6 and 6, 48 from the field, getting to the line 8 times a game, 88% from the line. His team's in the 3 seed. When you compare him to the alternatives, even though he's played 28 games, I still think he should get in there. So I'm basically with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one good thing for him is like the closer and closer he gets to the All-Star game, hopefully he can stay healthy and he can close that like game gap. So like by the time the All-Star game actually happens,
that was part of my reasoning, because the All-Star game's not for another 3 weeks or something, right? So
yeah,
he'll be a little bit closer by the time that comes around.
Yeah.
Anything to say about Jason Tatum? I mean, the Celtics are in the 10 seed, which is kind of disappointing, but I don't think you can put that on him.
It's like it was going to be him or Jaylen Brown. Like one of the Celtics had to get an All-Star, but they can't get 2 All-Stars. And then you just look at it and Jason Tatum is a forward, and sadly for Jaylen Brown, he's a guard. There wasn't even a point of like debating and like questioning who deserves it over them, because Jaylen Brown got kind of screwed and put in the guard spot, which is just tough for him.
Yeah.
And then now that we're here, who out of these 3 do you think deserves that starter spot?
Deserves that starter? Oh, you mean over
Kevin Durant's going to be
Kevin Durant,
injured, right? So one of these 3 is going to become a starter.
I want to say Jared Allen. Is that crazy?
Jared Allen would be fun for like us NBA super fans, have an NBA podcast, watch like 60% of the games.
Yeah.
But I think from like a realistic standpoint, I can see Jason Tatum getting it, because like he has a decent amount of fans, plays for a big franchise. The only question for Jared Allen is isn't this All-Star game happening in Cleveland?
Yes. Good points. Yes.
So I was just saying, having a Cleveland as a starter, that would be pretty fun to see. So I think Jared Allen is going to get it because it's happening in Cleveland. But if they don't factor into Cleveland, right, then probably would have been Jason Tatum. But I think since it's happening in Cleveland, I'm going with Jared Allen too. I think he's going to be an All-Star starter.
Yeah. Do you know who makes that decision?
Adam Silver.
It's Adam Silver. Yeah. So if it's up to Adam Silver, I think they're probably going to go the Cleveland route. Yeah. Speaking of Cleveland, I'll give you my wild cards next. So my 2 wild cards are Fred VanVleet, our guy, and then Darius Garland is my second. I know I was just not hating on him, but comparing to Trae Young, but I still have him in there as a wild card. Yeah.
So I think as a lock, we have Fred VanVleet as one of the wild cards, but I do not have Jared. I do not have the Cavs having 2 All-Stars. Instead, I have Bradley Beal replacing Darius Garland.
Yeah. I actually have Beal, and then I scratched them out and put Garland, because I think their numbers are pretty comparable. Garland's numbers are actually pretty better. If you look at his numbers, he's 19.8, 3.4 boards, 8 assists, and his team's in the 6 seed. They're 27 and 19, and Bradley Beal's team is in the 9 seed right now. And his numbers they're not. He's shooting 30% from 3. Like, these are not the numbers we're used to seeing from Bradley Beal.
Yeah, the question with it is they have 4 more wins, the Cavs. So do they deserve 2 All-Stars instead of just 1 and 1? You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, oh man, I would love for Cleveland to have 2 All-Stars because it's happening in Cleveland. And I think that's going to be a good story and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think Bradley Beal is going to get that coach's vote. And you see, he's not having the greatest year. At the end of the day, he's still averaging 23.7, so almost 24 points, 1.6 threes, 6. Still having a great year, just not as good as last year. And his team's still 500, still fighting for the play-in. So I just let him in there instead of Darius Garland.
Yeah, I mean, the raw numbers are good, but then you look a little deeper at the efficiency, and like it's pretty stark compared to last year. Do you think that is a combination of the new rules and the new balls, maybe?
And the combination of him just having to play make a little more too, right?
Yeah.
Like before it was just him and Westbrook. My turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, kind of going at it. And now it's actual offense, getting Kyle Kuzma involved, getting Montrezl Harrell involved, dishing out for Denny Avdija to shoot threes, throwing oops to Gatford, Thomas Bryant, and Rui Hachimura. Spencer Dinwiddie's having a horrible season, so kind of covering for him, making sure he gets some open looks, right? He's just trying to get a whole team environment, team feel, getting KCP some wide open threes, right? He's just like dictating this team feel, team thing, and they're 500. Kyle Kuzma is low-key having it like almost not really MIP year because his rookie year was really good, but he's coming back to his like rookie year. Kyle Kuzma scoring crazy amount of points. they're in contention to get Jeremy Grant, make a little push to that fun little like 6C so they avoid the play-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's just evolving as a player and is having a little rough patch while doing it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think Darius Garland needs some at least a shout out though, because at his age he's pretty young. What is he, a third-year player right now? And man, like he's doing some pretty impressive things for a third-year player.
Yeah. I think the conversation becomes for our injury replacement.
Yeah.
So our injury replacement doesn't have to be a forward, even though Kevin Durant is a forward. Like you could just be someone from the East.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be between Lamelo and Darius Garland, and that's when the conversation starts. I think Beal is gonna just get that coach's love, get in before them.
Okay, so before we get onto that, do you want to talk about Fred just a little bit? I know we talk about him quite a bit on this podcast, but just one more time, he's almost 22 points a game, 4.7 boards, 6.9 assists, 39% from three, 39.8% from three. Raptors just went one game above 500, and they're in that 8 seed right now. And it's kind of funny because they showed a graphic the other game, comparing Fred's age 27 season to Kyle Lowry's 27 season, and it was eerily similar. Like the numbers were almost exactly the same. So, and Kyle Lowry is a future Hall of Famer. So Fred VanVleet, you could say, is on a Hall of Fame track right now. Now, obviously, you need to win a championship. But maybe he has one already in his age. He needs to be the second best player on a championship team. Maybe he does that in his age 33 season, like Kyle Lowry did, 32. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think everyone who plays like fantasy basketball is like in love with Fred VanVleet because he's just one of the best fantasy players ever. And then Raptors fans are obviously in love with him because he's literally carrying the team on the back. We have good contributors, Pascal Siakam stepping up some games. Scottie Barnes last game had 27 stepping up. But Fred VanVleet, man, I think he just takes the game over. He's defensively one of the best players. He can shoot the ball like crazy. He's shooting like near like Steph efficiency. Like it's crazy how good his efficient 3-point shooting has become. He's one of the best playmakers. He just does everything. He's a great point guard defender. He initiates the great Raptors defense. He rebounds the ball, gets almost 5 a game for someone who's 6 foot or under 6 foot. I question it sometimes. He's one of the best playmakers, averaging almost 7 assists. He's one of the best shooters, like averaging 4 threes a game. This last month, he's averaging 5 threes a game. He scores a lot. He's efficient. He does everything, and he does with a low turnover count too. Like he's essentially a lock. He's playing like the CP3s and the Kyle Lowrys, and man, it's just great to see. And I'm happy that he's on our team.
Yeah, and so clutch too. So many fourth quarter, like scoring like 6, 7, 8 straight points just last night against the Washington, and he pulled that game out right at the end of the game. So let's talk about our injury replacement now, because you mentioned 2 guys that have to be in the mix for that: Beal, Garland, whoever you don't have in your list right now, Lamelo. And I actually do think you need to talk about Pascal Siakam in that conversation too, because his numbers are pretty impressive himself. 21, 8, and 5. Lamelo is 19, 7.3 boards and 7.7 assists. Really impressive raw numbers, but then the efficiency is down from last year. 3-point percentage is actually up, but 2-point is down. Anyway, and his team's in the 9th seed. I'm kind of happy with either one. I think with my bias, I would lead towards Siakam, but I think his numbers are actually really impressive too. But then you're giving the Raptors 2 All-Stars as a 10 seed. Or as an 8 seed. I don't know. It's tough.
That's why for me, like since I already had Beal in, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, Garland's a lock for the injury replacement, because I don't want to harp on this too much, but where is the game being played?
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think when the game gets played there, Adam Silver is going to favor to them a little more. That's why I think Jared Allen will become that starter. And that's why I think he'll be like Darius Garland. You could come in that. And it's not like Darius Garland doesn't deserve it, right? If he didn't deserve it, then it wouldn't matter. Lamelo would get in, right? Lamelo is one of the biggest jersey sellers and one of the biggest fan favorites of all time. Gets posted on social media 24/7. So it's going to be either does he go for the fan favorite, like league wide in Lamelo, or does he give Cleveland their second All-Star? And I think Cleveland with the 5 seed, if you look at it before them, Uh, everyone else is like debatably having 2 All-Stars. Chris Middleton, everyone's in there and stuff. So I think it goes Darius Garland. Just
actually, When I was making this list, I thought for some reason that the injury replacement had to be a forward, so that's why I went with Siakam. But it doesn't have to be a forward.
No, I think injury replacement just could be anyone who Adam Silver chooses to be.
Okay, so in that case, then I can kind of agree with going Garland Beal. But I think Siakam needs a nod too. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was forward, I'd probably go Siakam, just because who's his competitor, right? Like Jaylen Brown.
Middleton classified as a forward, but Middleton's numbers are not.
Jrue Holiday's been better than him.
Yeah, like
this year, Jrue Holiday much better than him. So yeah, like it's not really there, right? You have disappointing Celtics getting 2 All-Stars with Jaylen Brown, or you have the third option on the Bucks getting an All-Star.
Yeah.
So it does go to Pascal Siakam if it's a forward.
Right.
If it's not a forward, then it goes to either Beal or Garland, whoever you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Agreed. Let's move on to the West. I think the West is a little less tricky to do. I did mine pretty quickly. I guess I'll go first. My 2 guards are Steph Curry and John Morant.
Yep. And for once, I actually think John Morant will get in over Luka, because I always thought Luka's votes was just going to get him over, but the last voting, like John and Luka are close. Yeah. So I think the whole league is just loving what John Morant's doing, and Luka's still a top 10 jersey seller. John Morant isn't yet. He's going to get up there, push up there. This is just John Morant's breakout year, becoming a fan favorite. Everyone's loving him, especially what he did against that Warriors game. I texted you, I was like, yo, watch this Warriors game. This game is electric. Like, that's how good that game was. John Morant had that and one play, stared down the kid who in the Steph jersey didn't give him a high five.
Yeah.
And then they did a whole jersey swap where in Memphis, where people brought jerseys of other players. They brought Zion jerseys, Steph jerseys, swapped him for Morant, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane jerseys. It was fun to see. It was heartwarming, man. And this whole Grizzlies team is heartwarming, and you just wish they have a good run, because they're like the NBA Cinderella story, even though they're in the 4th seed. But like, we're all rooting for them, and it's fun to see. Yeah,
man. John Morant, another 3rd-year player. He's 25, 6, and 7. His team is 32 and 16 right now. 2 games back of the Warriors. They're currently in the 3 seed, and he is, like, no joke, he's in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, he's right there. If they could, I don't think he'll win it, but he's like the kind of like that Chris Paul where you have to give him credit and you have to talk about him, because he's doing all this. And man, it's just happy to see John Morant get all this attention from a smaller franchise in Memphis.
Yeah,
he's still getting this media attention, and he's forcing their hand, right? He's the most exciting Memphis player ever. I know they had Marc Gasol, Mike Conley and stuff, but he's the most exciting Memphis player ever, and he's the one putting them on the map, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I was scrolling through YouTube the other day, and I saw a First Take headline. It's like, would you rather have Giannis or John Morant? And at first I was like, hey, come on. And then I thought about it for a second, like, I would still rather have Giannis, but like that's 100%. not as crazy of a statement as it was just a year ago. So
yeah, they definitely prephased it by saying 3rd-year Giannis versus 3rd-year John Morant.
Okay, I didn't watch the clip. I just saw the headline.
Because the headline is absolutely crazy, because Giannis is probably going to win his 3rd MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP. Well, we don't need to talk about Giannis. We already gave him his praise. But yeah, John Morant could get his praise. It's just happy when you see Stephen A. and these other reporters start throwing you in these crazy conversation, because it means you made it.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, Curry and Morant, you could argue they're both near the top of the MVP voting, or they're somewhere near the top. Anything else to say about Curry? I mean, his Warriors have fallen a little bit in the 2 seed, but it's been so much fun to see the Warriors of old back with Clay and Draymond.
No, Draymond Green sadly hasn't played since Clay's return.
Well, I mean, he played like he started the game and then he subbed out right away, but he'll be back.
Steph Curry hit a game winner, and it was just incredible to watch that little shimmy, get into the mid-range, splash it. Man, Steph Curry's amazing.
Yeah.
And is slipping from the MVP conversation, but he's still right there, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, like he may be slipping, but man, it's so close this year. Like a hot 2-3 weeks from one player can put him right at the top.
First,
right? That's how close it is. Okay, so let's get your forwards.
Okay, so I
starters.
think two are a lock, and that's
Yep.
Jokic and LeBron.
Yep.
And then I have one guy who hasn't played in a while, who I have an IL replacement for, but that's PG-13. He was playing incredible while he was playing, so I could see him sneaking in there, Paul George. But
Yep.
he hasn't played in a while, and I don't think he's going to play for the All-Star game. So I have him in there for now, but I'll replace him like Kevin Durant, basically.
Yeah, I have the same three. We talked about Jokic already. Literally, Jokic is averaging the same number of points, but his effective field goal percentage has gone up since his MVP season. Yeah. And like you said, there's about $65 million worth of players sitting at home right now and not playing for the Nuggets, and his efficiency has gone up, and his team is in the 6th seed. Like
crazy.
We talk about him every podcast, but it's just because it's so amazing because they're always in the 6th seed or the 5th seed or the 4th seed every single week, and his numbers keep getting better. And it's just insane. And these players they're not coming back like anytime soon, at least.
He's like one of the funnest players to watch because you just see his team and you're like, all right, triple team Jokic. And then he still has like 30, 10, and 10. Like, what? Like, it's so fun to watch. Everyone should be watching at least a couple of Nuggets game because this is like one of those years, like 2016, 2016 Curry, 2012 LeBron. People are going to talk about this Jokic season.
Yeah. And LeBron, yeah. So we didn't mention or talk about LeBron's numbers, but his numbers are kind of ridiculous. He's averaging like 29 points a game. Like it's wild. Like Lakers are in the 7th seed, but it's not LeBron's fault. And he's played 34 games, which is like on par with quite a few people who we have in our All-Star game. He's 29 a game. He's 7.6 boards, 6.4 assists. He's shooting 36% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, 52% from the field. Like, what's going on? He's 37. I thought he was washed up.
Bro, I don't know what's happening, but like him and Tom Brady got to release books about like how to stay at the top of their game because this is crazy. And man, it just shows how much taking care of your body and sports science and all that stuff has improved because this never happened before. And it's happening with a couple players because we're going to talk about another guy who's old as hell in the All-Star, or at least All-Star contention. And another player who we didn't talk about, Kyle Lowry on the East side, he's also having a great season and he's old as hell too. So these NBA players are aging gracefully, man. It's crazy to see. And LeBron, I hope he gets that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stat. I know he's pushing for it, but he definitely has a chance to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And Paul George, like you said, hasn't played in a little while, but doing an amazing job with the team he has around him. Had that Clippers in the 8th seed, and let's hope he comes back come All-Star time. But if not, we're gonna have to name an injury replacement. Okay, so let's get to the bench. You mentioned Luka. I have Luka as my first bench guard, and then Donovan Mitchell as my second bench guard. I expect you'll have the same. Yeah,
the same.
I mean, interestingly, with Luka, this is his worst efficiency season, yet this is his best team success season so far in his career. His team is 26-20. They're in the 5 seed at the current moment. And his efficiency is not very good to look at. He's averaging 25 a game, but similarly to Beal, similarly to Damian Lillard, his shooting under 30% from 3, 43% from the field. But what's he doing differently? His team's winning much more than they ever have.
Getting adjusted to the new ball, getting adjusted to new rules. That's definitely slowed down a couple guards. Same with Luka Doncic. And then he just finally has Jalen Brunson who could do some of the tasks for him. And this is the reason why we said Jalen Brunson shouldn't get traded because look how well it's working out. And Kristaps Porzingis is also playing like Kristaps Porzingis. And this all might be a result of the new head coach, Jason Kidd, actually believing in teammates other than Luka Doncic and actually having kind of like an offense. So good on the Mavs for hiring a good head coach.
Yeah, and you mentioned Porzingis, like his efficiency as well is down, but he's averaging 20 a game, and that's better than not playing, which is what he's been doing for the most of the last 3 years. So good on the Mavs. They won, I think, was it 10 straight or 11 straight? There, I think they were 9. I don't know, something like that. They were 10-1 in their last 10, and they beat our Raptors too. So let's move on to the 3 forwards. Did we talk Mitchell? We didn't talk about Mitchell. Yeah, okay. The Jazz are
really to say about
in the 4 seed, like they always are. They're always a top 4 seed. and he's averaging the exact same numbers as he always has, and he's just an all-star lock every year.
Yeah, literally. Him and Rudy Gobert, the guy we're going to talk about forwards.
Yeah.
They're just going to get 4 seeds. They're going to get bounced in the second round. They're basically the new modern day version of the old Jazz. And
yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the forwards. Who do you got for the 3 forwards in the West? Wait.
Yeah, so my 3 forwards are Rudy Gobert, as we mentioned. Karl-Anthony Towns and Draymond Green.
I have the exact same 3. Rudy Gobert, he's averaging 15 boards a game and blocking 2.3 shots like he always does. He's shooting like 72% from the field or something like that, so he's got to be in there. Towns is having actually a really good year, and his Timberwolves are only in the 9 seed, which for most teams would be disappointing, but to see them anywhere near the playoffs, that's all it takes for Towns. And his numbers are, I mean, they're pretty much what they always are. As a center, he's shooting over 40% from 3, and that's on 5.4 attempts, 24 points a game, 9 boards, almost 4 assists, 52 from the field, 80 from the line. Just, man, it's fun to see Karl-Anthony Towns playing meaningful basketball games halfway through the season, because usually they're already out of it by halfway through the season.
Yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns just needed a little help, and Anthony Edwards is here. Anthony Edwards is good enough to come provide them the help, and they're right there in the 9 seed, and he's as close as to all-star lock you can get, because his stats are crazy, and he's above 500 competing for an all-star, competing for the play-in playoffs. So he's a lock. Draymond Green, we're gonna have to mention another IL injury replacement. So that means we're gonna have to mention 2 injury placements out for the West. But Draymond Green is mine and your defensive player of the year until he got injured. They were the 1st seed until he got injured. So he deserves to be locked, and the Warriors deserve 2 all-stars. Steph, MVP Steph when Draymond was playing, defensive player of the year Steph when Draymond when Draymond was playing.
Now, I don't know if you've looked at the voting returns, but right now, if the All-Star game happened today, the front court starters would be LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Andrew Wiggins. Yeah. So Paul George is 300,000 votes behind Wiggins, and he's not playing right now. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but we could be looking at Andrew Wiggins as an All-Star starter.
Well,
I would personally put Draymond over him just for the defense. But
luckily, fans only get 50% of the vote. And Wiggins, I wish it was like that because he's Canadian, and we would love for him to get in there, and we wish that. But Zaza Pazulia ruined that a couple of years ago. They changed the rules, and Andrew Wiggins will not be an All-Star starter, and probably won't be an All-Star.
Probably not. Okay, so let's talk about our wild cards, and then we'll get into our 2 injury replacements after that. So my wild cards, Devin Booker, and I have Damian Lillard as my last one.
I don't know that.
That was hard, but
I have CP3.
I have Damian Lillard, CP3. Yeah.
So you're gonna have to have 3 All-Star replacements because Damian Lillard's not playing as well.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's right.
So I guess you can replace Damian Lillard right now with CP3. That's one of your
CP3
All-Stars.
would be my next up. Okay, let's just do CP3. Okay, so Devin Booker and CP3 as my 2 wild cards.
Yeah, so both the Phoenix boys, they get in. They're both playing great. They're the 1st seed. DeAndre Ayton's been in and out of games. JaVale McGee stepping out. Hopefully DeAndre Ayton's ankle's okay and he can come back. But basically, a lot of people said this team only made it this far because of injuries, because of LeBron getting hurt and stuff like that. They're the 1st seed, so they're kind of shutting that down. And they're both playing amazing, and they're both as good as they were last year, and they're both going to be All-Stars again. And it's funny how they're both in our wildcard spot, because you could definitely have one of them as like the guards or something like that. But I just put them both in the wildcard where both the Phoenix boys are going to make it into All-Star this year.
Yeah, you could totally have Booker over Mitchell, or even Luka as a guard, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, CP3 makes more sense than Damian Lillard. I mean, like, it's weird because when you go to All-Star voting, you have to scroll down like a lot before you get to Chris Paul for some reason. Like, I was looking for him on the thing. He's literally like not there. It's really weird. But he's averaging 14 points, 10 assists, shooting 48% from the field, and his team's in the 1st seed. And he's played 44 games somehow. He's playing 32 minutes a game, and he's 36. That's what I was
saying. The all guys are here. Brown, CP3, Kyle Lowry, like these guys are playing great. Shows how much sports science and technology has improved.
Yeah. Okay, so let us get into our injury
IO.
replacements. I think you can make a legitimate case for Andrew Wiggins as one of the injury replacements.
If the forwards, if it has to be like a forward for a forward,
Yeah.
then I would have Andrew Wiggins in for one of Draymond Green or PG-13. But if we're going through like you could put anyone in, I would have DeJounte Murray and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay, yeah, Shai. I was considering Shai. I like the Murray pick as well. Yeah, like when you're looking at the rest of the Western Conference, like
Forwards,
no one on the Kings, no one on the Pelicans, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Anthony Davis, he hasn't he's injured as well, like, and he's had injury troubles all season. I don't know. The best options might actually be Shai and DeJounte Murray, who's having an amazing season.
The one thing that is kind of iffy is because they do look at like fan votes and stuff, obviously, because they want to provide the best product for the All-Star game. Like Mike Conley was not an All-Star last year. DeMar DeRozan was like a million times better than Mike Conley at midway through the season, right?
Yeah.
But they chose Mike Conley because he has never made an All-Star game in his career and stuff like that, right? So I'm scared that the Spurs might get screwed over again. And they might just be like, oh man, Andrew Wiggins was third in voting. Their team's second, and Draymond Green can't even play. The Warriors deserve 2 All-Stars playing, and they might give it to Andrew Wiggins. And I'll be cool with that. 2 Canadians, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Andrew Wiggins coming in there playing. I think Shai kind of got one of those spots locked up because he's kind of like becoming a fan favorite, doing pretty good on OKC and all that stuff. I just hope the Spurs don't get screwed over and lose another All-Star candidacy spot, whatever, because it happened last year with Mike Conley. And right now, how it looks like it might happen again this year.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. For some reason, I totally forgot about DeJounte Murray when I was making this list. Like
Adam Silver.
I definitely would have had him over Damian Lillard if I didn't forget about him. So I'm sorry, DeJounte Murray, but I forgot about you. He makes much more sense than Damian Lillard in my list. So yeah, I agree with you, DeJounte Murray. And even though the Thunder are currently 14-31, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Hamilton, Ontario, is averaging 23 game, 4.7 boards, 5.4 assists, and he's like one of the only bright spots on that team.
And I even had DeJounte Murray over Shai as well. Like Shai was my second.
For sure. Yeah.
So even if Andrew Wiggins gets in, DeJounte Murray should still get in too. But it just might be like the Spurs and them not getting an All-Star and stuff like that. And it would be criminal to see DeJounte Murray not make it.
Yeah.
So the good comparison will be Shai versus Andrew Wiggins, and it'll literally be stats versus winning.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know. And I think I'm going.
Both of us are okay with that debate. We're a winner with either one, right? So
they're both Canadians, so we can't complain. And Andrew Wiggins finally did play for Team Canada last summer. So all those, Team Canada fans who weren't fans of him because he wasn't playing for Canada, he suited up. Sadly, Shai couldn't because he was dealing with that injury. So I'm happy with it. It means at least one Canadian will be an All-Star.
Yeah. It's crazy to see Andrew Wiggins third in All-Star one, but like you said, it's only half. That's only half the battle. So yeah, those Warriors fans are pretty crazy with the voting because Klay Thompson is up there too.
Hey, Andrew Wiggins got that whole Warriors fans going at him and all of Canada voting for him too. Because ever since he played for Team Canada, he's up there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that pretty much does it for All-Star voting. I think they're our All-Star picks. They are announced. When are they announced?
This Tuesday starters and next Tuesday.
Okay.
Next Tuesday is the reserves.
Yeah. Awesome. So we shall see how we do. I think almost all the starters are locks. It's like obviously East is locked with all those guys. Paul George is the only one in the West. It's like a little iffy, but I mean, I don't know. It'll probably be Paul George. Anyway, so stay tuned for All-Star teams being announced this week. In the meantime, thank you for what's that?
And next week we're gonna come with the trade rumors and trades that happen because we're gonna be pretty close to the All-Star break. I mean the trade deadline. 10th is the deadline.
Getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. Ben Simmons still has not played.
Looks like he won't get moved.
Looks like he's probably not getting moved. The situation changes. Seems like every 3 days though. So we shall see. So we'll keep you updated on that in the meantime. thank you for listening to this episode. You can check us out on all of our social media platforms at Stretch the Floor Podcast, Instagram, STF Clips, YouTube. Like, subscribe, and subscribe to the podcast feed. Leave a like, rating, review. It all really helps. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you next week.